Okay, so today I picked up a new package of bees and I'm going to install them into a new hive. Before I do anything though, I have some frames of capped honey that I took out of my old hive. After the winter there was too much honey in that hive. I had to take it out to make room for the queen to lay eggs. So I took out a couple of capped frames, put it in the freezer, and I just took them out yesterday. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in this new hive to sort of help give it a head start in getting them going. So here, this is a frame of what would be capped honey. This isn't something I would take to eat though, because this was from the fall and winter. And last fall I medicated the bees for mites. So some of this honey would have medication in it. It's not something we would want to eat. So I'm giving some that I extracted to the bees instead of sugar water, and this I'm going to give put to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch some of this wax off so the bees can find it a little more readily. You can see all the honey inside dripping. So I'm going to put this on the outer edges of the hive. And I have another one here too. And these frames, once they get filled with honey, they get pretty heavy. So let me pop some of the wax off the top. I kind of broke that a little bit, but whatever spills, the bees will actually clean up. They're really good at cleaning up for themselves. And I'm going to turn it around and scrape a little bit of the top of this also. And I'm going to put this in this side of the house. Okay. Okay, this wax I'm just going to actually drop down again. The bees will pick it up and clean it up. Okay, so now this is my new package of bees. They were driven up from Georgia yesterday. I believe they're Italian bees. It's a 3-pound package. So 3 pounds is approximately 10,000 bees. So you can see it's a little chilly today, so they're sort of all kind of clustered around. There's a can in here with sugar water, and right next to the sugar water is actually the queen cage. The queen is by herself in a separate cage. So our first goal is to get the sugar water and the queen out of here. So I'm going to use my hive tool to pop off the piece of plywood. Okay, just put that aside. And here is this little tab here. This is holding the queen cage. So I want to try to hold on to that because I don't really want her to fall in. If she does, I can reach in and get her, but I prefer not to have to do that. So what I am going to do is try to take out this can of sugar water. Seeing if I can get it out without dropping her in. It's not going to be easy because it looks like the can is trying to actually fall into the box. So this may take just a little working. If I can get it up high enough, maybe I can grab onto it. Okay. So I've got a grip on it. Let's see if I can get it out now. You can see that white stuff all along the side of the can. That's the bees already, they're trying to build wax all around the can. So they've only been doing that for a couple of days because they were just put in this box like 2 days ago. So I'm going to gently pull the box out. And this was filled with sugar water for their trip here. So you can see there are the bees drinking the syrup. And actually there's still syrup in it. So I'm actually going to just try to scrape these guys here. Okay, now here comes the important part. Here is the most important thing of this whole procedure is my queen. If something happens to her, I'm going to have to buy a new queen. So she's in this cage, and you can see the bees are sort of all trying to get to her or feed her. They're all sort of her attendants. So what I'm going to do, let me move this out of the way here. I'm actually just going to shake this and drop these bees into a new hive. And then I'm going to look at my new queen, and here she is. She's marked. She's very active. She's marked with a yellow dot on her back, so I should be able to spot her pretty readily. She's eager to get out. The bottom here, there's some candy right here, and there's a cork. So when I put her in, I'll take the cork out, and then over the next few days, the bees will eat the candy and eat their way to her. And that way, it's a sort of a gradual release so they can all get used to her. If I were to just drop her in the cage now without them getting used to her, it's possible they wouldn't like her and they could kill her. And then if you don't have a queen, then you don't really have a hive. You have bees that won't know what to do with themselves. And she hasn't had a chance to mate, so she hasn't been mated yet. She's a virgin queen. So once she's let out of here, after a few days, she'll go off on her maiden flight. She'll mate with lots of different drones, and then she'll come back, and that's it. She'll mate with all those drones. Once she's back in the hive after mating, that's it. She'll never leave the hive again. Then she'll start laying eggs and everything. So if they were to kill her right away, and she hasn't had a chance to mate and lay eggs, then there wouldn't be an opportunity to make a new queen if something happens to her. I would have to re-queen the hive. So we're going to hope that doesn't happen. What I'm going to do now is take the cork out. Let's try to see if I have. I'm going to try to take this cork out carefully. Okay, so it's just this little cork, pops inside. So I'm just going to take that out, and now I'm going to put her in. Just want to really analyze her first though, so she's very active. She's crawling around like crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now, I have this empty frame, again hasn't been drawn out, nothing's been done to it. I'm going to put her, this is just an elastic, I'm going to put her against the inside of the frame. I'm going to try to bend this wire down a little bit first. And then I'm going to put her, using the elastic, on the inside of the frame. I want her facing out, so the bees can feed her, and they can kind of get used to her as they're working her out. So I'm going to put her inside here. And I'll check in about a week to make sure they've released her. Once she's released, I'll just take the queen package out. So I'm going to try to get it so this stays on the top. So hopefully that will hold it for now. Okay, so now I have this package of 10,000 bees that have to go in this hive. So actually going to do is I'm going to spray a little sugar water on them. Make sure the spray is working. Get any water out that's in it. So I'm just going to spray a little sugar water on them. It'll just kind of keep them busy. They'll have to kind of clean themselves off. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bang this on the ground to drop all those bees to the bottom. Give it a good bang. So now they're all at the bottom, and all I'm going to do is shake it right on top of that queen cage and into the middle of the hive. And there they all go. I'm going to give it another tap. Get them all in one corner. I'm going to tap them again. I don't want to tap them too many times. I don't want to get them all too aggravated. So let me tap them again. And I want to be careful I don't step on this whole batch that fell. I want to get out as many as I can. If a few stay out, it's no big deal. They'll all just make their way to the hive. So I'm just going to leave this box over towards the side. Ooh, there's lots of these bees right here. So I think because a lot of them had sugar water on them, they're a little sticky, but they'll clean themselves off. And then before you know it, they'll all be back inside. So there are already bees that are sort of around the queen, you know, checking her out. They'll be feeding her. So what I'm going to do now is, so you can see here's the queen cage under the elastic. Just be careful where you step in, there's a lot of bees on the ground. So there are already bees sort of all around her cage. So what I'm going to do now is close up the hive. And make sure everybody's out of the way. Put these last two frames in. And I'm going to make sure the frames are centered. Just going to push them all together. And then I'm going to put my inner cover on. Making sure my hole's facing front so the bees will know how to get back in. And one of the most important things I have to do is I have to feed these bees, because none of those frames have been drawn out other than the ones that have the capped honey. So I'm going to actually use a pail feeder and put it on the top. And this right here is actually, this isn't sugar water. This is actually honey that I extracted from that hive that I'm going to put in here. I put a little bit of water in it. to get it a little bit better consistency. And this also has medication in it. It's something called fumagellin that's to help with a disease called nosema that the bees can get. It's like a dysentery type disease. So this will help them out. So make sure there's no bees flying around inside, because you're not going to get out of the pail. Okay. So I'm just going to tap this cover on really tightly. And I have to say, this package seems very calm. They don't seem to be too upset. Okay, hopefully that cover's on tight. Now I'm just going to flip it over to make sure it doesn't come pouring out too much. Right, that's good. And then I'm going to just put this over here, like that, so the bees can come and take what they need out of the holes on the bottom. Then I have an extra super right here that I'm going to put on top here. And this will just protect the pail from anything from getting at the food. Then I'm going to put my outer cover on. These all the way. This one I'm going to leave on flat because this is just an empty super and the hole for them to, the entrance hole is down there with the inner cover. And I'm just going to grab a couple extra bricks, put them on the top, and that'll be it. So any bees that didn't come out of the package or any bees that are on the ground, they'll make their way through. And as you see right here, this is called an entrance reducer. And since this is a small colony, because it's a new colony, it's not really strong enough to defend themselves if something were to try to get in, other bees or whatever, into the hive. So this is actually sort of helps prevent other things, only a few can get in at a time. So that's sort of like a safety device for them. There's not one on my other hive because they were all fighting to get in and out. So I took that reducer off because they're strong enough that they could defend themselves. But this one's still a smaller hive. So any bees on the ground will make their way in. Any bees still left in this will all figure out where their hive is. It's amazing how they know. They'll know not to go over there, that this is their hive. And I'll come back in a week or so and make sure the queen is released. And hopefully they'll be doing their job. So there we go. Now I have 2 hives.